Welcome back to Bardscraft. This week I made something a bit different. I'll show you how it works. Okay, let's begin. I got this idea when cutting out a few bricks from XPS foam, just like this. I don't play Warhammer, but I do think it's brutal and badass. I draw lots of inspiration from this world. Let's start building. If you appreciate the content, remember to subscribe to Bardscraft for more badass terrain. First, I cut out different sized pieces of foam. I use a kitchen knife because it's a bit more fun this way. Make sure that the pieces stand straight and have cuts that are clean enough. You can easily cut foam with a knife, just make sure that you use drawing cuts. Soon, we will shape the pieces into something like this. But first, let's remove the glossy factory surface from the foam. The glossy thing is a poor surface for painting and applying textures, so get rid of it. Next, some cutting noises. Good, it's all clean. Now, we'll start making the patterns on the pillars. Use a combination of straight and angled cuts to create the look we desire. Make sure that the cuts are pretty deep, you'll see why. Think of places where you want to remove some cubes or other shapes. Some of the cubes from this section will be cut out soon. There we go. Let's not stop there, though. Make more cuts, and most importantly, be creative. Don't be afraid to remove lots of material, especially from the top corners of the pillars. This right here looks really good. The piece is almost ready for the next steps. When doing this, try to figure out where removing a piece or two will look good. Just one more side. Here I tried something interesting by making thin bricks, or whatever we can call them. Then I removed foam from the corner like this. If you decide to make these, I'm sure you'll figure it out. Okay, now we can start working with the pencil. Run the pencil through the cut to make nice grooves. Now you can see more clearly what kind of patterns I cut into the foam. Personally, I think the diagonally cut shapes look the best. I'll just finish the rest of the piece and then I'll start working on the details. Here, I accidentally made an area of smaller shapes. It gave me an idea. I can cover some of the surfaces with strange symbols or patterns. We'll see, but first, the big pillar. Later, I made this larger pillar of foam. This will be huge for the scale I'm using in my games, over 10 meters. I'll show you what I made, and you will get a better idea of how to make the patterns. Back to normal speed. Now we can start working on the patterns or symbols I spoke about. First, make shallow cuts with a knife. I decided to make strange patterns that look like a mix between circuits and magical symbols. After making the cuts, start working on them gently with a sharp pencil. And remember that you don't have to cover all of the surfaces. That would take some time, but it might look better, who knows. I'll show you some fast forward of me working on the larger pillar, so you can see how I did this. I figured it's best to make the symbols on the larger pieces. For example, this triangle, it will look really great. Yeah, there we can see it. Use this as a guideline. I finished the rest of the pieces. I made a total of 10 pillars, so it took some time. Perhaps I don't need that many. The small carvings require some time. Okay, here is a good piece. I think this side looks really nice. The carvings on this surface will look great when we get some light. I decided to texture these with a ball of aluminum foil. Usually I would use lots of pressure when making these textures, but this time I just gently applied some shallow stone textures. There we go, it should look something like this. Remember to be careful, if you use too much pressure, your carvings will suffer. Let's start painting. I made a green-yellow mixture and started by painting into the cuts and patterns I have made. At this point, I still had no plans of adding a source of light, so the idea was that the green-yellow paint would appear brighter inside the narrow spaces. Later, I decided to cover the entire piece with the green-yellow paint. Using a small and stiff brush, I was able to easily get paint into all of the narrow spaces and cuts. When finally leaving the house, I went to a store and saw some lights. I got the idea that made this project great. I tested the lights in the half-painted pillars and it already looks great. So, we need to dig our way into the foam in order to make space for the electric tea lights. I carved this big hole with the kitchen knife. It still needs a bit of work. When doing this, please don't stab yourself. Just for once, don't be an idiot. Unfortunately, only 2 of my pieces are large enough to fit a candle. Now I will show you the entire process of me playing with the kitchen knife. Okay, that fits pretty well. It looks like I have to remove the fake flame on this one to make it fit. Alright, remember, the more foam you remove, the more light comes through. Hot glue is the easiest way to attach the candles. I've run out of the glue sticks, so I have to use PVA glue. It works just as well, but takes some time to harden. And a bit more for good measure. For the larger piece, I also stuck in a glue-coated scrap of foam to make the bond stronger. We will dry brush the pillars with a darker green. Well, this is a pretty heavy dry brushing, but we'll call it that. It's okay to get some of the dark green into the cuts, but not that deep. As long as the deepest parts are green-yellow, we are fine. Funny thing, this is actually the first time I've used a brush that is intended for miniature painting. Okay, this is the part that requires you to summon your virtue of patience. Carefully start painting the surfaces with black. Use a good medium-sized brush and try to fully cover most of the surfaces, but leave all of the gaps and cuts unpainted. Now you can see that the green is almost glowing through. Just wait till we switch on the lights. That looks good. Just a few more hours of painting. Just what I need. Fortunately, our laziness comes to great use. If we leave a few areas unpainted, as green, we will save time and the pillars will look better, so feel free to not paint some areas. But do paint all of the surfaces that you have made engravings on. You want the green to look as glowing as possible. That works best with a black background. Sit back and enjoy the fast forward, even if it's not that fast. I think the surfaces with diagonal borders look the best when left as green. You can see some of that on this side that I have painted. What now? Yeah, if you have removed some of the cubes, like I have, like this, you should leave the gaps green. It will look good. All of the pillars are painted with black. Now, take some dark grey and start dry brushing. The most important thing here is to dry brush the green areas. This will make them look amazing once the tea lights are turned on. Of course, the pillars look nice without the light. My camera seems to have some problems understanding the colors and lighting, but no worries. Just dry brush everything with the grey, but focus on the green areas. You could also add another layer of brighter grey. The black stone might look a bit better, but you will lose some of the contrast between green and black. Let's turn off the lights and see how it works. Soon you'll see some scenarios I set up using this Unholy terrain. But before that, do subscribe if you're new here. Great. Okay, make sure to check out more terrain and miniatures on Bardscraft. I like this episode a lot, so tell me what you think about it in the comments below. Is this worthy of being called Necron Terrain, or is it heresy? I'm Lucas from Bardscraft and I wish you epic crafting.